Hello dear students, I hope all of you understood the basics of photosynthesis and the detailed process of light reaction through the previous videos. So today I am moving on to the second phase of photosynthesis, that is the dark reaction, the most important phase, the synthetic phase of photosynthesis. Okay, let's see what is dark reaction. What is dark reaction? Dark reaction is the light independent phase of photosynthesis which takes place in the stroma of chloroplast. As the name indicates, it never means it is a reaction taking place in dark. It is not like that. It is just a light independent phase. And it takes place in the stroma of chloroplast because stroma possess the photosynthetic enzymes needed for dark reaction. So it is an enzymatically controlled synthetic phase of photosynthesis. So the dark reaction enzymes are present only in the stroma. That is why dark reaction takes place in the stroma of chloroplast. And the dark reaction process is actually a reduction process, that is carbon reduction, or it is otherwise known as carbon fixation or carbon assimilation. Simply, dark reaction is the process of production of glucose from carbon dioxide. So remember these points while hearing the term dark reaction. Dark reaction is the light independent phase, and where this reaction takes place, it is in the stroma of chloroplast. And the nature of the reaction, it is an enzyme controlled reaction. It is an enzymatically controlled reaction, and the reaction is a synthetic type of reaction. Synthetic means a simple molecule is converted to a complex molecule. Okay, and the process is actually a carbon reduction or carbon fixation or carbon assimilation process, and actually the process is the production of glucose from carbon dioxide. Here from this picture it is clear, this is the simple carbon dioxide. It is a simple inorganic molecule which is getting converted to glucose. Here the simple inorganic molecule carbon dioxide is transforming to an organic molecule glucose, which is somewhat complex, through the process of dark reaction. Okay. This is a simple representation of dark reaction. Here we can see carbon dioxide, which is an inorganic molecule and very simple inorganic molecule taken from atmosphere. It is converted to glucose, C6H12O6 glucose, which is an organic molecule. So this is the actual process of dark reaction, through which the inorganic carbon dioxide is converted to organic molecule glucose. So an inorganic molecule is converted to organic molecule, and carbon dioxide is a very simple molecule which is getting converted to a complex molecule of glucose. So this is a synthetic phase or synthetic reaction. So for any synthetic reaction to take place, energy is needed. So energy is essential for the occurrence of this type of synthetic processes, and we know the dark reaction is a reduction process, carbon reduction process. So naturally it requires hydrogen also, hydrogen or proton. So energy and hydrogen are important necessities for the smooth occurrence of this dark reaction. So we know there are ATP and NADPH to supply this energy and hydrogen. ATP act as the energy carrier and NADPH act as the hydrogen carrier. And from where the system get ATP and NADPH? I hope all of you remember the light reaction process. We studied already. Light reaction produces ATP and NADPH through its photochemical reaction, and so using the products of light reaction, that is the assimilatory powers produced during light reaction, that is ATP and NADPH, this process of dark reaction takes place. So ATP and NADPH produced in light reaction act as the fuels for this dark reaction. Okay. So this picture From this picture, it is much more clear that how beautifully the two phases of photosynthesis are interconnected by ATP and NADPH. So this is the pictorial representation of chloroplast. This is the lamellar system, that is grana, or the grana, that is the stack-like arrangement of thylakoids. So these lamellar system, thylakoid or grana, this is the site of light reaction. So here light reaction takes place. Here the light energy is trapped by the activity of pigments into the chemical bonds of ATP, and also water molecule is splitting up in the presence of light by the process of photolysis, and hydrogen is released. That hydrogen is utilized in the formation of NADPH and the remaining oxygen is released. So ATP and NADPH produced from light reaction, and now this ATP and NADPH present in the stroma of chloroplast, they are utilized for the dark reaction process. Here dark reaction takes place, the carbon fixation reactions, because they are enzymatic processes and the enzymes are present in the stroma. So through this pathway, carbon dioxide is getting converted to sugars, initially to sugars, and these sugars are then utilized for the synthesis of fatty acids, amino acids, etc. through the cell metabolism. So here this is the dark reaction phase, this is the light reaction phase. So these two phases of photosynthesis are interconnected or interlinked by ATP and NADPH. So ATP and NADPH are the products of light reaction, which are used as the fuels for dark reaction. In the context of dark reaction, you might be heard about 4 different cycles: C3 cycle, C4 cycle, CAM cycle and C2 cycle. So first of all, you have to develop a clear idea about these 4 cycles. That means the function of this cycle and the occurrence of this cycle, like that. So you have to study all these 4 cycles in detail. So before going to the detailed study, I just want to give a basic idea about all these 4 cycles. First, the important one, the most important cycle is none other than C3 cycle or Calvin cycle. C3 cycle or Calvin cycle, it is synonymous to dark reaction, because we know the dark reaction is the process of reduction of carbon dioxide to form glucose. So the actual process of dark reaction, that is the carbon fixation or carbon reduction, it is taking place through this cycle. That is why C3 cycle is known as the fundamental cycle of dark reaction. So it is the fundamental pathway, or it is the only pathway through which carbon dioxide is converted to glucose. That is why we can surely say C3 cycle operates in all photosynthetic organisms, because there is no other alternative for C3 cycle. So without this cycle, the synthetic phase of dark reaction will not take place. So for the glucose synthesis, this pathway is essential. So through this pathway only carbon dioxide is converting to glucose. That is why C3 cycle is known as the universal cycle or fundamental cycle. So it operates in all photosynthetic organisms. The site of C3 cycle may vary in eukaryotes and prokaryotes. In the case of eukaryotes, we know stroma is the site of C3 cycle, where the C3 cycle enzymes are present in the stroma. But in the case of bacteria, which lacks a chloroplast, the C3 cycle operates in the cytoplasm. So that is the difference, but C3 cycle is operating in all photosynthetic organisms. Okay, so that's about the importance of C3 cycle. So what's the case of other cycles? C2 cycle or photorespiration, C4 cycle and CAM cycle. So the main difference between C3 cycle and all other cycles, the main difference is C3 cycle is the fundamental cycle and it is of universal occurrence. It is present in all photosynthetic organisms. But The other three cycles, C2 cycle, C4 cycle, CAM cycle, they are not universal in occurrence. They are present in some plants during some particular conditions, some particular environmental conditions. Otherwise, some cycles are present in or confined to some particular plant groups only. So we can't say C2 cycle, C4 cycle and CAM cycle are universal in occurrence. So they are present only in some plant groups, or in some plant groups they are present only in some particular situations or particular conditions. So we can't say C2 cycle, C4 cycle and CAM cycle as universal in occurrence. So that is the main difference. So based on the occurrence of C2, C4, CAM cycles, photosynthetic plants are divided into three categories: C3 plants, C4 plants, CAM plants, not C2 plants. So this is the most important thing you have to understand: C3 plants, C4 plants and CAM plants. So let's see what are they. C3 plants. C3 plants are those plants in which C2 cycle is operating along with C3 cycle. Not always. That is very important. C2 cycle is operating in C3 plants not always, but during some particular environmental conditions, that means hot and dry condition, that means extreme temperature and dryness and extreme light intensity, such environmental factors favor the operation of C2 cycle in C3 plants. Okay, so what is C2 cycle? It is an unwanted process or waste process which reduces the efficiency of C3 cycle. So actually it is an unwanted process or it is a waste process which reduces the efficiency of C3 cycle and decreases the photosynthetic productivity. So C2 cycle is C2 cycle is an unwanted process which reduces the photosynthetic efficiency, but C3 plants can't avoid C2 cycle. It is metabolically added to C3 cycle. That is why C3 plants can't avoid this cycle, C2 cycle or photorespiration, because it is metabolically added. But there are some plants in the earth which are always living in a risk of photorespiration. That means they are living always in a hot and dry environmental condition. So for such plants, nature itself found a solution to prevent photorespiration or C2 cycle in the form of an adaptive cycle. So there are two categories of plants having such adaptive cycle. They are C4 plants and CAM plants. So let's have a look. C4 plants. First, C4 plants. C4 plants possess an adaptive cycle, C4 cycle. This is operating along with C3 cycle. Here C4 cycle is actually an adaptive cycle which is operating along with C3 cycle for the purpose of preventing C2 cycle. So what is the function of C4 cycle? C4 cycle is operating in C4 plants for avoiding photorespiration, for preventing photorespiration and to increase the efficiency of C3 cycle. So by preventing C2 cycle, this C4 cycle increases the efficiency of C3 cycle and increases the photosynthetic productivity. So that is why C4 cycle is known as an adaptive cycle for C4 plants. So the most important examples are tropical grasses. Tropical grasses are coming in this category, like sorghum, maize, sugarcane, etc. So for such plants, they are living in near to equator. That is why they are common in tropical savannas. So because of this C4 cycle, they enjoy the high efficiency of C3 cycle and high photosynthetic productivity. The second category of plants having an adaptive cycle is CAM plants. CAM plants are desert plants, that means succulents. Succulents or desert plants are coming in this category. Here CAM cycle is operating along with C3 cycle. CAM cycle is crassulacean acid metabolism, which we will study later in detail. So here a CAM cycle is operating along with C3 cycle as an adaptive cycle to increase the efficiency of C3 cycle by preventing C2 cycle. We know desert plants also living in hot and dry conditions during daytime. So through this CAM cycle, they can prevent photorespiration and increase the productivity of C3 cycle. So I hope all of you understood the basic difference between these cycles and the purpose of these cycles. That is very important. So you have to clearly understand what is the purpose of C3 cycle. C3 cycle is the fundamental cycle through which carbon dioxide is converted to glucose. It is operating in all photosynthetic organisms. All other cycles are operating in some particular situations or in some particular plant groups. So here C2 cycle is operating in C3 plants at some particular situations like hot and dry condition, and it is an unwanted process. So in order to avoid C2 cycle, the other two cycles are coming, C4 and CAM cycles. Okay. So I hope all of you understood the function and purpose of these cycles, but we have to study all these four cycles in detail. So we will discuss the exact process or detailed process of these cycles in the coming videos. So I hope all of you clearly understood what I have explained today. So I will be coming with the detailed reaction of C3 cycle soon. Okay, see you. Thank you.